Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. This is Raven here. I hope you guys are doing fantastic today. If you are, then that is great. If you're not doing so great, please turn that frown upside down and smile, and remember just to be happy. Today I am going to do a story time video, and I'm going to talk about how my coworker was so obsessed with me, and I'm not getting hot-headed. This is something that was crazy, and everyone thought it was crazy, and kind of had their guards up about this dude. The fall of 2013, I started working at this office supply store, and there was this guy who started a few months after I did, and I had to train him on the register. So I'm teaching him how to work the register, and he just was not really into learning about the register or the protection plan or the rewards program. He was more so interested in talking about himself and talking about being from Atlanta. So he asked me, after he told me he was from Atlanta and told me that he was Christian and that he was an inspiring gospel rapper, he asked me about myself, and I told him I was from Detroit and I moved to the suburbs, and I told him that I was pursuing an acting career, and I also mentioned to him that I am a pastor's kid. He was like, oh, Atlanta is basically just like Detroit. It's another Detroit. And he was saying that he wanted to move to California too, because I said I wanted to move to California. And he was telling me he had a girlfriend back home in Atlanta, and like all this stuff. And every time I kept trying to teach him this like program and stuff, he's like, oh, I could study this when I get home. I'm not going to learn it off the bat. He just did not care about how this stuff worked. Then it was there that I noticed that he was not the brightest person ever. He was 24 years old. I just turned 22, and he couldn't do a simple task like count money. I'm like, seriously, what kind of 24-year-old don't know how to count any money? And it was like basic math. Like, okay, you gotta give this person back $10.35. He up here. And I'm like, dude, get a 5, get 5 ones, and get a quarter and a dime. That's $10.35. And he just like, I'm like, you gotta pick up the pace. Like, you don't have time for that. He said he likes to count his fingers to make sure he's giving the customer the right amount of change. And I'm like, okay, but still, you gotta speed up. You don't have time for that. I hadn't seen him again since I had trained him until Thanksgiving night and Black Friday. And that was the last time I saw him again until entering 2014. That's when I started seeing a lot more of him. And my co-workers was always like teasing me and saying, someone here likes you, someone here likes you. And I'm like, who? And they would never tell me. They like, guess. And I would just guess the guy's name, and they would never tell me who it was. One day I was on break, and Robert, this is the dude that liked me, he came in and he was looking at the birthday calendar, and he saw that my birthday was July 12th. And he's like, oh, your birthday is July 12th. My birthday is whatever he said his birthday was. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And so he had asked me, like, if we could hang out sometime. And I was like, oh, well, Ray said that she wants us all to hang out one day after work. And he was like, oh, she did? I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, okay, that's cool, but I was just talking about me and you. And I'm looking like, next day I told my coworker, and I was like, he said that he wanted to take me out, and he said he could come and pick me up and all that stuff. And my friend was laughing, well, my coworker was laughing, and she was like, yes, he is the one who likes you. And she was like, how is he going to take you out? He doesn't even drive. I was like, but I'm not going out with him. And so fast forward a few weeks, he asked me like for my phone number, and I told him I couldn't give my phone number out at the time because I was getting threatening text messages from some crazy lady who is like obsessed with my family. And so he didn't believe me, and so I let him see the text message, and well, because he wanted to see, he asked to see the text message, so I let him see. I'm like, okay. So he read the text message and saw for himself, and he's like, is she a sister? And I'm like, yeah. And he was like, you know, it's a shame that our sisters act like this, and you know, they supposed to be child of God and blah 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 blah. And I'm just like, okay. And he's like, I understand why you want to give your phone number out, because I wouldn't either. And so he ended up asking me, like, well, we fast forward and it's like, what is it, March, and he came into work about 4 o'clock, and I had to work 7:30 to 5:30 that day. So when he came in at 4 o'clock, I let him have the register. He wasn't on the register for 10 minutes yet, and he had asked me to watch the register so he could go to the bathroom. So I watched the register. He was gone for like 15 minutes. Finally, he came back, and a customer was just leaving, and he asked me, Robert, asked me like, was that my dad? And I said, no, that was not my dad. And he goes, it wasn't? I'm like, no, that wasn't my dad. He was like, it wasn't? I'm like, no. And he was like, oh, I thought that was your dad. And I'm like, no. He's like, oh, the reason that I asked was because that guy looked like a man of God. And I just looked at him like, because he knew I was a preacher's kid. And so he was like, I never met your dad. I think your dad would like me. I want to meet your dad. And I just looked at him and I walked away. I guess he was like trying to hint to me like, oh, okay, you want to meet my dad? Like, we can schedule a day for you guys to meet up and, you know, blah, blah, blah. But no. And so I went to go back to doing my work. And when you work the register, you cannot leave that facility. You have to literally be in that area like the whole time by the registers. So I noticed, like, if I happen to look to the front or I'm walking up or something, he's staring at me. I'm like, dude, why is he staring at me? Like, this is crazy. So I had to walk back up to the service desk to get something, and I walked up there to grab something, and he was like, Raven, I have to tell you something. And I was like, okay. And he looked at me, and by that time he had customers come in line. So he was like, okay, hold on a second. So he started ringing up the customers, and my other coworker, Brandon, he came up and he was like, Raven, talk to me before you leave. It's important. Don't forget. And I'm like, okay. Brandon went back to the back and was doing his work. By that time, that's when Robert was done with his customers. So he was like, never mind, I'm not going to tell you. And I'm like, just say it. He was like, no, I'm not going to tell you. I'm like, just say it. And he was like, well, okay, how do I say this without sounding inappropriate? And I'm like, what is he about to say? So he was like, you're beautiful, and you deserve to be told that you're beautiful. And I'm like, thanks. And he was like, you're welcome. You really do deserve to hear that more often. And I'm looking like, how do he know that if I'm being told that I'm beautiful? But I was like, okay, thank you, and walked away. And I went back to doing my job, and again, he was staring at me everywhere I went, and I'm like, oh my gosh, dude. So finally 5:30 came along, and I'm like, yes, time to go. So I ran and clocked out, and I ran all the way to the back, got my stuff, and I saw Brandon, and he basically told me that Robert had came back there and told him that he liked me and that he wanted to ask me out. And he asked Brandon's opinion on like whether or not he think I would say yes to go out on a date with him. And he was asking, like, did he think that I liked him? Brandon felt like he had to tell me that because he felt that my coworker Robert was really, really, really weird, and that he was a stalker. And he was like, I just had to let you know because I think he's a stalker, and I really think you need to watch your back, and he's obsessed with you. And I'm like, okay. And I appreciate the fact that, you know, he told me that, and I took that into consideration as well. So the next day I went into work, and I was talking to another one of my coworkers about it, and there was also a guy, and he was like, yeah, he's always talking about you. He's like, she's so bad, Raven is bad, and, you know, all that stuff. And he was like, yeah, I think you would want to watch your back too, because I think he's a stalker. And, you know, I really took that into consideration, because these are two guys, you know, telling me, okay, that dude is obsessed with you. You might want to watch your back and be careful. So obviously I'm taking that into consideration, because guys know other guys and how they think and how they work and all that stuff. So, you know, I really paid attention to what they were saying. The last time that I saw Robert, I was leaving work, leaving out of the break room, and he had just walked in because he was getting ready to start his shift. And he said, Raven, are you leaving? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, okay, hold on, I want to give you something. And so I'm looking at it like, uh-oh, what the heck is he about to give me? So he goes in his bag and he pulls out this CD. He comes over to me and he goes, can you give this to your dad? And I'm like, my dad doesn't want that. And he's like, yeah, he does. I'm like, no, he doesn't. He's like, yeah, he does. And I'm like, no, he doesn't. It's like, yeah, he does. I'm like, my dad, people give my dad CDs all the time. He doesn't want it. He throws it straight in the trash. And he was like, well, your dad, he wants this and he's going to listen to it. I'm like, no, he's not. He's like, yeah, he is. I'm like, no, he's not. I'm telling you, my dad is going to throw this straight in the trash. He was like, no, he won't. He will listen to it, especially if you tell him to. I'm like, no, he won't. He's going to throw it in the trash. He was like, no, he won't. He's going to listen to you, and he will listen to it if you tell him about me and you tell him to listen to it. I'm like, if I give that to my dad is going to be like, what the hell is this? And I'm going to tell him, oh, my coworker wanted me to give you his CD. And he's going to be like, I don't want that. That's what's going to happen. He's like, nuh-uh, he will listen to it because you're his daughter and you told him to. I'm like, no, he won't. He's like, yes, he will. I'm like, no, he won't. Like, I was getting so frustrated because it's like, how the hell are you going to sit and tell me what my dad is going to do? And you don't even know my dad, nor have you ever met him. So, you know, stop. And I was like, fine, I will give it to him. He was like, thank you, I appreciate it. And I just looked at him and he's like, you know, you never know whose hands it might land into. And I'm looking like, okay. And he was like, and I think your dad is going to like what he hears. And I'm like, and he was like, who knows? You know, maybe your dad will like it so much and want me to come perform it at his church. And I'm just looking like, the freak. And I just walked out, and I walked out the building and I threw it in the trash. My thing is with him, one, I'm sitting here telling you that my dad doesn't want it. My dad's not going to listen to it, so you might as well keep it for someone who is going to actually take the time out in their lives to listen to your CD, because my dad is not the one. And on top of that, just because my dad's a preacher, it does not mean, oh yeah, I'm going to listen to your CD. Ooh, yeah, this is hot. I'm going to let him come and perform this at my church. No, this is not no freaking concert. That's the house of the Lord. So, no. And the whole reason that I didn't even like give this dude a chance or was not even interested in this dude is because I felt like he was very annoying. One. Two, my impression of him is like those crazy dudes that be in those Lifetime movies who comes off as nice and cool in public, but behind closed doors he's like crazy and like a woman beater and like all that stuff. And that was my impression and my thoughts of him. And he may not be like that, but that's what I thought. And little things as far as him being a little controlling, like let me see your phone, because he didn't believe that I was getting those threatening text messages. And even like, oh, give this to your dad would like it. Like, No. To me, it felt like he was trying to be a little controlling, and I think he was really obsessed with my dad and was trying to use me to, get to my dad so that way he has an opportunity to advance his career. That was my crazy, 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 crazy story. If you guys had a similar situation to what I had, the crazy coworker or coworker being obsessed with you or whatever, or even liking you, just comment below and let me know, like, the story. I would love to hear it.